Get the meeting underway. Just before we do that, Councillor Charlotte Hayden-Taylor could not make it today. Her deputy, Richard Dolinsky, is standing in for her. As a deputy, he's not allowed, as per our constitution, to vote on any item that we require a vote on, although he can fully participate in any discussion. The proceedings will be filmed. The camera will always be trained on the executive here, so you do not need to worry when you're asking your question from being in the limelight and on YouTube for future. So, moving on. Apologies. Do we have any apologies now?
The only apologies, Councillor Hayden-Taylor.
Thank you for that. Any declaration of interest? Public question time. We've got two. Pam, would you like to step up and ask your question?
Yes, a consultation on the speed limit changes was initiated by a householder letter on the 25th of July this year. The last date for comments was the 18th of August, which effectively gave just over 3 weeks consultation. Barkham Parish Council were not consulted, and they feel that this TRO is not satisfactory. Since the changes are due to the new school complex being built, that Bearwood Road within the Barkham boundaries, Barkham Street and Langley Common Road should be considered as part of this TRO as well. The school is due to open in a matter of days, and we're bewildered by the fact that no thought was given to this until July, and also wonder why the traffic management team will not meet with Barkham Parish Council to discuss their proposals and concerns until the end of September, when presumably this TRO will be in place and cannot be changed. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Barkham Street and Bearwood Road, the section within Barkham and north of the Lilacs, are considered to be outside of the defined walking routes associated with access improvements to the new Borough School. Reducing the speed limit to 30 miles an hour on Langley Common Road was considered and formed part of the proposed speed limit reductions review in accordance with the Department for Transport Circular 01/2013, setting local speed limits in course. Unfortunately, the outcome of the review was that the speed limit reduction to 30 miles an hour could not be introduced, as it did not meet the required criteria, and therefore is not currently supported by Thames Valley Police, who are responsible, of course, to do speed limits. I confirm the formal consultation on the proposed TRO to reduce speed limits on 3 sections of roads commenced on the 25th of July 2016. This consultation included a letter drop to all residents on each of the roads, notices on streets, adverts in the local newspaper and on the council website. Emails were also sent to affected parish councils, including Barkham Parish Council, via an address which has since unfortunately transpired to be out of date, and for this we apologise. However, Barkham Parish did become aware of the consultation, and the council received and considered their response as part of the overall 43 received. I confirm also that Barkham Parish Council's response has been fully considered and is included in the executive report scheduled for 1st of September tonight. The statement that the council had not given this any thought until July 2016 is incorrect. Discussions with the project teams, parents reference group and the council's education team have been ongoing since December 2015. And in addition, a number of these highway issues and concerns were discussed directly with Barkham Parish Council during a meeting with highway officers in May 2016. The reason the traffic management team have declined to meet with Barkham Parish Council again before the end of September is because the team have been prioritising the 3 speed limit reductions proposed in the executive report that met the setting local speeds Department for Transport review criteria, and which were supported by Thames Valley Police, plus other measures associated with access improvements to the new Borough school prior to this school opening in early September.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes. I think. It's all right, I seem to have heard most of that before. I am particularly worried about the Bearwood Road section. I used to live on Bearwood Road, lived there for some 25 years. I drove from Sindlesham, as is my wont, at 38 miles an hour as soon as I received this, came down Bearwood Hill and attempted to suddenly, or fairly suddenly, reduce my speed to 30 at the point at which you've decided it's no longer necessary. It is exceptionally dangerous. I wouldn't recommend it. And the people who live on that side of the road have no footpath for them to walk on. They have to cross the road, and they've been told that they need to cross the road, and you're asking them to cross the road in a 40-mile-an-hour limit area when you've denied them a footpath to travel on. Most of those residents are elderly, and we have been fighting for years to get the speed limit in that road down to 30 miles an hour. And I just find it absolutely astounding that you can chop off half a road halfway down a hill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to comment?
Yes, certainly. I note your comments, and what I can say is we will be reconsidering, or consider your proposal in the coming months.
Okay.
A lot of this, and you'll hear this later, is police non-supporting, and since they are the only ones, well, since they're the only authority that can actually enforce speeding, changing the speed limit without their support is...
But with respect, they didn't support Barker Road either. And
that's
now
something
all of
with
a sudden
that's
Barker
something.
Road's come in,
Well,
which is, as far as I'm concerned, a waste of time.
They are now, but we are pursuing that. Bernie Waters, would you like to step forward, please, and ask your question?
My question is this. The response from Barkham Parish Council stated they would like to see the extent of the proposed 30-mile-an-hour speed limit on Bearwood Road extended further north to Highlands Avenue. This will be picked up as a wider issue by the project manager outside the TRO process. What commitment will the council give to actioning this feedback, given that A, the Parish Council is the most important informed party to speed restriction need, and that Highlands Avenue is the gateway to the residential area of Bearwood Road, Barkham. The cost addition is also negligible. A few more signs between the proposed 30-mile-an-hour limit and the Parish Council's recommended limit. And I think you understand what I mean, because you're going to put gateways at 30 halfway down the hill. To put it another 300 metres further up means what? 4 signs?
Thank you. I'd say that wider issues will be picked up by the traffic management team, including comments made various occasions previously and now. It is premature for the council to commit to anything specific without first undertaking necessary investigative work. Reducing an existing speed limit would require a speed limit reductions review in accordance with the Department for Transport Circular, January 2013, called Setting Local Speed Limits, and any proposed speed limit reduction would require the support of Thames Valley Police, who are responsible. But as I said, issues are being discussed about other areas other than the ones for which we're speaking tonight, and so all comments will be noted and considered.
As a layman to this procedure, could you translate that to something meaningful? It sounds like a
what it means
obfuscation.
Is you can't make a commitment to something until you've done a review and got the information that you need, and that will take place.
And to further simplify it for you, then prior to any formal legal process, which is what the TRO is, consultation should, it didn't happen in the current TRO, to which we've apologised to all the relevant stakeholders, will be consulted or talked with the relevant parish councils and the relevant ward members, because as your comment very well makes, that those are the people who are generally more knowledgeable, because they're feet on the ground, of what goes on, and hopefully the outcome of that, but it includes the police, the outcome of that is something that when you go through the formal legal process, it's virtually gone through on the nod. It didn't happen on this one, which we've apologised. There were reasons for that. So, yeah, I hope that makes it a bit more simple. Do you have a supplementary question you want to ask?
I did, yes. My question was how many members involved in the decision actually live in Bearwood Road and therefore have first-hand experience of the challenges, the earlier sensible request to move the
I don't
speed
have all the
limit.
addresses to hand, but I don't live there, but I drive along it and various other roads.
You don't have offices.
In which case, I'm sure you'll see. I gather the gateway term is a traffic management term through contacts I have through other members in other councils, and that is logically where you should be putting boundaries for speed limits.
Can I make a suggestion with Mr. Waters, since you're relatively new to this? If you leave your contact details with the executive member who's responsible, Malcolm, and then you two can have a more of a clarification and an explanation of what's going on. I'm sure you'll find it riveting.
Thank you very much.
Right, so that's the end of the public question time. Move on to member questions. Gary, could you like to step up and ask your question, please?
Well, thank you. WSP has a scheme which the traffic management team and the highways inspector asked the council to look at, because the plastic bollards on the extremely narrow footway were being regularly hit by vehicles, which meant they were mounting the footway. What I find disappointing is in the analysis of issues in the report tonight, there's no reference to this or to the extensive conversations I've had with officers on this element. The scheme was on the list to be done just over a year ago that extended the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit and gave the illusion that the road was narrowing so this would slow vehicles entering and leaving the village at this point where the current pupils' parents, many with pushchairs and young children, also walk to the Coombs, and when Borough opens there will be two-way traffic with many more pupils and parents walking in the opposite direction at the same times. The footway is so narrow in this area that it cannot be widened, because that is the extent of the footway width of the council-owned land. Can you explain why the scheme has been totally ignored when the very clear risk to pedestrians, mainly children, and their parents is there for all to see, and for which you appear to be Borough taking responsibility for, as I asked you to do in my recent question at council?
Can Malcolm respond to that question?
No. Sorry.
So, the question at the end of the
That's the
question.
question, yes. Sorry. There's a print off here which have been able to have an evaluation of the Woodley car parking trial. I don't know what that means. Nothing to do with legal.
Would you like to address Gary's question?
Right. The answer to that question, the one you've read out. The section of footway in question is an established walk route for the Coombs School and will become part of a walk route for the new Bohon School once open in September. The plastic reflective bollards were installed to better define the edge of roads for motorists, particularly in the hours of darkness. They offer no physical protection to pedestrians using the footway, but I can confirm there is no evidence of vehicles actually mounting the footway at this location, as this would have resulted in several bollards being taken out in a single section and an incident. However, the presence of the bollards on the footway does take some space. Therefore, they can reduce the readily accessible walking width on the motorway. All walk routes associated with access to the new Bohon School, including this section, have very recently been subject to an independent assessment of walk routes. This assessment commented that the width of the existing footway is reduced by the presence of the bollards, as was mentioned above, and recommend that either the bollards are fully removed or a number of the bollards are reduced to maximise the footway width available. Either of these recommendations, in the opinion of the independent assessment team, would provide a non-hazardous walk route to serve both schools. The Council's project team for access improvements to the new Borough School, having considered the recommendation, are accepting the second option to reduce the number of bollards. This will then provide both an increase in the footway width available while still highlighting the edge of the roads for motorists, particularly in the hours of darkness. The WS scheme referred to looked in isolation at this bollarded section of footway on Eversley Road. With a reduction of bollards now proposed, officers are satisfied the Council are complying with the independent assessment and therefore providing a non-hazardous walk route at this location. Therefore, the earlier WSP scheme has recently been withdrawn. This will now allow the traffic management team to work with Thames Valley Police for a more holistic engineering scheme that will allow the speed limit to be reduced on both Eversley Road and Langley Common Road, which remains an aspiration of local parishes, the local members and the traffic management team, which of course requires the support of Thames Valley Police.
I'm sure you have a supplementary, Gary.
I do. 16 years ago at the appeal for Penrose Park, the inspector walked that route with the parish council and myself, and he decided there and then that it wasn't safe, and he actually allocated £200,000 for parts of cycleways in that area. None of this was ever used, and that was pre-Bollard. So there was a clear recognition this is a problem. Since June, I've sent probably about 50 to 70 emails to officers and to Malcolm to try and get to some sort of solution for this issue. And sadly, Malcolm never replied to any of them, which I found strange. So I would ask you, would you consider putting this section of road in through the TRO? And if not, would you do, once you've done the work you're going to, carry out a risk assessment and a safety audit and let me know the results, please?
I will, of course, have already indicated that there are other things going on, and we will be looking at all these things, including such comments. And as information emerges or gets processed, I will let you know.
Simply yes, Gary. Thank you for that. So we're now moving on to the only agenda item other than questions, item 44, which is the report about the proposed reduction of speed limits, this TRO. Malcolm, would you please introduce this?
This item is about the approval of the lower speed limits on 3 locations within the Arborfield and Barkham area, specifically the B3349 Barkham Road, the Bearwood Road and Shearlands Road. The reduced speed limits are to become 30 miles an hour. The proposed traffic regulation orders, TROs, for these reductions were published as required and consultations were conducted. Those anticipated to participate in the consultations included parish and town councils, councillors and any other person wishing to comment. The consultation results were analysed and showed a very clear support for the speed reductions. In addition, we have the essential support and approval for these reductions from the police, as the enforcement agency for speeding matters. Arborfield and Parish Council's response, Arborfield and Newland Parish Council's response, was received shortly after the consultation period ended, but it also showed a clear support for them. The usual process is for these changes to be considered through an individual executive member decision, an IEMD. But because a ward member objected, the Constitution dictates that the decision must be made at an executive meeting, as we are doing this evening. In addition to these 3 TROs, WPC had wished to reduce the speed limit on 2 other roads, namely on sections of the A327 Eversley Road and on Langley Common Road. However, following a similar review process, it revealed, as indicated on page 7 of the executive report, section 2.6, that the police have also, and I quote, the police have also stated that they would not be supportive of reducing speed limits on these 2 additional sections of road. Nevertheless, discussions are continuing about these two other roads. And if the police change their position on the reduced limits, then WBC are fully prepared to incorporate similar reductions on these other two roads as well. So, the purpose of this agenda item tonight is to request your approval for these 3 speed reductions as published.
Thank you, Malcolm. Any questions or comments? Anthony?
Of the 150 children, how many do you expect to walk to school on this road or these roads?
I asked the
Do you have
question
numbers?
about,
Other numbers?
I asked the question about how many would be affected by this local walking, and I believe it is about 30.
And given the distances involved, do you really expect children will be walking this route and not being taken by some other means?
Well, the rules are dictated not by us but by government guidelines on what constitutes suitable speeds and safe routes and walking routes, and it conforms to all those rules and regulations. It also, of course, requires police approval, if you like, and support if you're going to get speed reductions. In terms of the walking, that is the distance that is applied for certain categories of people where they live.
You raise a very interesting point,
I just-
Anthony. No, but at the end of the day, nobody actually knows until the schools open and people do it. You know, we've had great walking to schools in certain areas that then drop off within 2 or 3 years because parents change, etc.
I know this road rather well as I drive it whenever I come to the council, and it strikes me as some of the bits in Barkham perhaps, but other bits, it just strikes me as very odd.
Thank you, Anthony. Any, Pauline?
Yeah,
Can you use...
just following on from Anthony's point. I think regardless of whether a lot of children kids are going to walk on this or not, they're more likely to walk to school if their parents particularly view that the traffic's reasonably slow and the route is reasonably safe. I'm particularly interested to see Gary's pictures of the footpath in question. I do know that footpath, now I've seen the pictures of it, and I'm particularly keen that we do actually look at the width of that footpath and see what we can do about that as well, because it is very, very narrow, and I think I heard an assurance that we would look at that route.
It's more than just looking at it. I was taken around the route by the officer, and I stopped at every one of these roads, and I got out of the car and walked up and down each road, including the one with the plastic barriers, and I noted the width and so on. I also spoke to a couple of mothers pushing pushchairs down the road and so on, and I asked them how they passed other people with bikes and so on. And they said, we can pass, but we need basically to lean back against the hedge a bit to get through. However, that obviously would necessitate cutting back the vegetation. That's exactly what was recommended. So there's 2 things. We've cut back on the vegetation, not just across ground level grass, but the bushes and trees that are sticking out as well. They've been cut back quite substantially to widen the pavement, even from what I saw. And in addition to that, the removal of these plastic barriers should also widen it, so it's quite a considerable increase on what was originally there.
Thank you. And we need to make sure that is
Okay.
continued
Yes.
on a regular basis, Angus. Angus, you had a question?
That was a comment to me. In 2 senses, I guess. Yeah. I think Pauline raises, to me, a point which perhaps I hadn't thought about before, which makes me more comfortable with supporting this proposal, is the confidence that a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, hopefully enforced, will have on parents to allow their children to walk. And I think that is quite a critical thing. My experience in other places also, on my local knowledge there, is I believe the most dangerous bit is already 30 miles an hour, and that's the bit between Bearwood Road and Barkham Bridge, especially part along Wall there. In fact, your predecessor actually had an accident at that point on his
Somebody ran
footway.
into him from behind,
Yes,
outside the
and he was on the footway at the time.
Yes.
So, one thought from experience from other places is that a white line placed along near to the verge of these roads does keep drivers so mentally away from driving actually up to the curb. And I think that should be also looked at as a possibility.
Could use cat's eyes as well.
Hmm?
Could use cat's eyes potentially.
No, this is just a white line which has the impression of making the road narrower and keeps the traffic both slower and away from being close to. Because some of these lorries along that particular stretch I mentioned, I walk down there regularly and I feel very threatened by the wing mirrors of lorries going around there.
Thank you, Angus. All these are good information. I've looked over at Alex, the head of service, and he's busily making notes. And if you go to a driver awareness course, certainly most of us have done. I've done one. One of the questions I had is they put up a picture of a rural road with those white lines and asked people to guess what it was. Well, of course, I decided not to participate because clearly I knew what it was, but it does seem to work. All these will be fed into the wider picture of the A327 and Langley Common Road. This isn't the last time that we will have discussed that. It will happen again in the future. It's got a very high profile, even more higher profile now as a result of this meeting. But this meeting is very much about the TRO. So is there any other questions? Otherwise, I'll go straight to the vote.
Sorry, I think Angus reminded me, one of the reasons why you've got from the bridge or the other side of the bridge over the hill, because of the one way over the bridge and the roundabout at the Bull, you've got a lot of stationary traffic up there, which does slow things down. But I think that has a material impact on the enforceability, even though at the bottom of the hill you regularly have the police with their camera van catching people coming down the hill, so you've got that as well.
Thank you, Anthony. So without further ado, I'll go to the vote on page 5. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. That's unanimous, so that's carried, and that's the end of the meeting. Thank you for your participation and attendance.